Hey, friend, and welcome back to Knit Your Stress Away. Have you ever noticed how knitting just feels good? Like, not just in this cozy way, but also in like a brain kind of way. Like your mood lifts a little, your mind slows down, and suddenly you're not spiraling about the 15 million things that you were overthinking earlier. This is not just our imagination. Today, we're going to talk about dopamine, which is your brain's reward chemical, and how knitting can actually help reset your nervous system in a really healthy and sustainable way. I am super excited about this episode. I nerd out on this kind of stuff, and I can't wait to share it with you. So let's get into it. Welcome to Knit Your Stress Away. I am Nadine Medina, a mom who rediscovered knitting during a stressful season and found it to be the ultimate way to relax, recharge, and reconnect with myself. If you're feeling overwhelmed and wondering if there's a creative outlet that could actually help you feel calmer and in more control, you're in the right place. In this podcast, I'll show you how knitting can be a simple, stress-busting tool, even if you've never picked up needles before. So take a deep breath, let go of the chaos for a moment, and let's explore how knitting could become your new favorite way to find calm and joy. All right, let's get into this episode and let's talk about what dopamine is anyway. So we're going to keep it super simple here. It's really the only way I understand it anyway. But dopamine is a chemical in your brain that helps you feel rewarded. So it actually is what happens when you eat a chocolate chip cookie, when you get a compliment from someone, or when you finish a task on your to-do list. Like, it all feels really great, right? But here's the catch. Most of us are constantly chasing quick dopamine hits because once one of them wears off, we want another one. And there's quick and slower ones, right? So for example, some of the quick ones are when we scroll social media, when we check notifications on either emails or text messages or even social media posts, right? Or when we binge reels on social media. It gives our brain this fast zap of woohoo, but it also fades just as fast because it's one of the quick ones. And it leaves us usually feeling drained, overstimulated, and really kind of blah. Especially when this happens like a cycle over and over and over. The thing is, with pretty much any type of, thing that you feel like almost, I guess, addicted to, for lack of a better word, is that it just gets worse over time, meaning you need more of it to feel the same, right? So knitting, on the other hand, is a slow dopamine source, and it activates the same reward system, but it does it in a calmer and more lasting way. You guys have heard me talk about the knitting versus scrolling thing for quite a while now, and this is really kind of like the whole sciencey part behind it, which I find so very fascinating, so I thought I would talk about it. So let's compare two very real moments where knitting versus scrolling kind of really shows up. So scrolling, you finally get a quiet moment, or not. Maybe you're not having a quiet moment and all you do is grab your phone because you want to get away from the thing that you kind of have to do, but you don't want to do it, right? So you open your phone. 20 minutes later, you've seen 30 posts, forgotten why you even opened your phone in the first place. It was probably not to scroll social media. And you feel probably a little bit worse than when you started. Number one, because you feel now like, oh my gosh, I just wasted 20 minutes. I was really supposed to do this thing. I could have already done it if I hadn't scrolled, blah, blah, blah. And you go spiraling down into this oh, I suck kind of a narrative. But also because of the way you were feeding your brain, right? And there's a lot of comparison on social media as well. So you're looking at those posts and you're subconsciously just like, oh God, I'm worse than them. I don't have my shit together. I don't this, I don't that, right? So it usually does not feel very rewarding, very energetic, I guess, or, it just doesn't leave us feeling great generally. If it's different for you, hey, lucky you, that's amazing. But for most people, it doesn't. Now, next scenario, knitting versus scrolling. You pick up your knitting needles instead of your phone and you start a few rows, right? The rhythm of the stitches is taking over. You may not notice, but your breathing actually slows down. And you might feel yourself kind of be in the moment. You might realize that you're forgetting about your to-do list, right? You're making something with your hands, which means you have no other thing to do. There is no, real quick. Oh, let me go to this app, to this app, to that app, because we're hopping around on our phone often as well, right? It's this like fast attention span near zero, right? When you're making something with your hands, your attention span has to be there. This may be hard in the beginning, granted, if you're used to the quick fix from your phone, but over time, this becomes a lot easier and you're actually going to crave it. But even if you're only doing a few stitches in a few minutes, and imagine what you can do in those 20 minutes that you wasted scrolling before, what you can do in 20 minutes of actually stitching. You could get, depending on the project, quite a few rows done. And you will feel a little more grounded and a little more peaceful after that. So with the same amount of time, you and your brain and your body get two completely different results. I find that fascinating, and I also find it so empowering because you are in control, right? You are the one who can say, nope, not picking up that phone, picking up that knitting project that's sitting right next to the phone, which, by the way, is my favorite hack these days, is to put your phone right where your knitting is, or maybe even underneath, like hide it under your project bag. So you definitely see your project bag first, and you're only ever picking up the phone if you really, truly need to use it as a tool. Not because you're bored, not because you have something to do that you don't want to do, and the phone seems like an easy fix. In those times, pick up the knitting. Pick up the knitting, okay? So let's get into what is actually happening in our brains a little bit. So here's what's going on. The knitting activates your brain's reward system through repetition and progress. So every time you finish a row, your brain goes, yay, nice job. And then it compels you to do another one. Have you ever noticed that? So this works with the social media or the email or the text messages just as much as it does with knitting. It's just a healthier way. You're like, okay, last reel. Okay, no, never mind. We're going to do another one. Oh gosh, this one was funny. Another one. Oh, this one sucked. I definitely have to do another one now. Like it just keeps going and going and going, right? But the same thing happens when you knit a row. And I just experienced it again last night when I took about 20 minutes sitting down by myself. I actually went outside. It was beautiful outside. And I took my project. I did not take my phone on purpose. And all I did was knit. And I sat in silence and I knit. And I was like, okay, after this row, I'm going to go inside and we're going to eat dinner. And that was 3 rows later that my kids came out and said, hey, mommy, are we eating dinner? And I'm like, oh, that's right. So it has that same effect because you feel so good when you're in it. The end of the row comes and you're like, oh, I can do another one. Oh, I can do another one. And over time, these small wins actually build momentum and give you real, satisfaction with your progress, but also with the way your brain has now received a real break. And it's not the same as that spike and crash like you get on your phone, okay? Plus, the repetitive motion of knitting can actually help calm your nervous system. And that is something that so many of us need these days. We are constantly pulled in so many different directions and we are stressed about so many things. And, there's like 15 million thoughts in our mind and 5 things that we forgot earlier or yesterday. And it's like, oh my gosh, it's constant up there. But calming your nervous system is actually a way to reset and to work against that stress of every day that we all are facing. But if you are intentionally calming your nervous system and not using just another thing to add to the stress, to add to the comparison, to add to that feeling, that frazzled, frantic feeling that we're doing when we use our phone and bounce around between the apps and using social media too much, this is what we need. We need to calm our nervous system, and knitting can do that for you. It can lower your heart rate. It can quiet your thoughts because you're focused. You're focused on a pattern. You're focused on something that you need to do in a certain order. So your brain will not be able to think about your to-do list at the same time as you're focusing on this project. You can only really do either one. And if you're still thinking about your to-do list while you're knitting, a pattern that you have to pay attention to, you're probably making mistakes in your knitting, and you don't want to do that. So focus on your knitting. Do yourself a favor. And it can actually, by that, it can make you feel safe enough to actually relax. So to me, it's always comparable to meditation, but I find it more fun. I meditate too. I don't do it super long. I do like quick meditations in the morning to kind of get my mind set in the, for the day and get in the right mindset. But I'd rather knit. If it has the same effect, I'd rather be knitting and making something really cool. So there was a season when I ended almost every night scrolling my phone. It felt like it was me time because we're kind of talk ourselves into the fact that, we're just laying on the couch and we're scrolling. But I would go to bed feeling kind of wired and also adding that disappointment in of like, oh, I feel like I just wasted my time. But I went back and did it anyway the next day, right? And then for the longest time, this is a long time ago because I have made a very intentional choice not to take my phone into my bedroom for years now. But there were times when I took my phone into my bedroom. It was right on my nightstand, and there is literally no escaping it because it's the last thing you see at night and it's the first thing you see in the morning. So to control that urge, you would need a lot of self-control and self-discipline. So for me, the easiest thing is just to put it outside of my, out of sight, out of mind. Really works the best for me there, because then I don't even feel like, oh, where's my phone? I'm just not doing that. I read a book, or I just, I meditate at night. Sometimes I stretch, or I just lay down and do nothing. I close my eyes and just relax. What also is helpful, I find, at night specifically, is to kind of go through the day, pick the wins of your day, really think back and be like, oh, wow, that went well, this went well, and this went well. And I'm really grateful for these, and these things. And it can be as small as a delicious cup of tea that is often on my gratitude list, or it can be something really big, but it just helps you detach from the constant need of feeling like you need to have something that is coming at you, because it's really, you just continue to add more things to your mind, to the overstimulation, which we already have enough of, that isn't in our control. So the part that we can control, I think we really need to. So what happened when I started replacing those scrolling times with knitting or everything else, or the other things that you can do that I just mentioned, it just changed the game. And specifically for the knitting, it wasn't just that I was actually making something, which in itself feels great, right? To create something with your own hands and to look at it later and be like, wow, I actually made that. But the other part and benefit is that my entire mood shifted, right? My thoughts got less noisy. I ended up sleeping so much better. Like, I'm sleeping so much better ever since I stopped doing that. And I now look forward to those times. I look forward putting my phone in the corner, grabbing my knitting project, sitting down on the couch, and not worry about that urge to pick up that phone. It makes me feel good. And I think that's totally worth it. And again, if it doesn't happen overnight for you, which is a complete, like, you have to expect that it will not happen overnight. This is a process because you're so used to grabbing the phone first. You have to use little hacks like putting the phone next to your knitting project, or moving your phone out of the bedroom, putting on certain focus time or screen time barriers that that will then help not getting as many notifications, for example, or only seeing messages from certain people, so that you're not constantly pulled into the who texted me now, who did I get this from, or what does this app tell me right now? What's the notification on that? Most of those things are not relevant for you during the day. And the notifications come at the dumbest times, right? When we don't need them, when we're either in focus or when we're trying to relax. And you do yourself a favor by removing them physically from your phone, or by removing the actual phone physically from the area that you're in, so that urge becomes lower and lower over time. And it really does work. But here's the good news. You do not need to ditch your phone entirely. I'm not trying to guilt you into anything. And I'm also definitely not telling you that any of this is your fault, or that you are, not having the willpower to do this. This is not that talk. This is understanding and empowering you that you can control this, and there's ways to do that. And the other part of this is that it's none of our faults. These phones are made to pull us in. These phones are made to pull us into this grab of, notifications and quick dopamine hits. And this is just how our brains work. So it's very easy, for these companies, for these apps to tap into that, the brain chemistry like that and make us literally addicted to our own devices. And we can't do anything we can, but if you don't know, then you don't know how to do anything about it. But this is me telling you how it works and what to do about it so that you are back in control about your device and about your dopamine reset, right? So it's not about guilting anybody. It's not about saying, hey, you're doing this all wrong. It's about giving your brain a break and knowing exactly what is happening so that you can do that. Now, here are a few ways to use knitting as a simple dopamine reset without relying on your phone for that and, doing it in this non-healthy way. So you can start in the morning really slowly before grabbing your phone. Like I said, my personal tip is to not even have it by your bedside. Just put it somewhere, I don't know, downstairs or in the bathroom. And even when you then grab it, put it in your pocket. You don't need to look at it first thing in the morning unless for some reason that is work related or obviously emergency related. You do. But on a regular morning, I hope you don't have to look at your phone. And I hope it's just a habit that you can easily break now, right? But instead of grabbing your phone, do a few rows of your knitting project with your coffee or your tea. And even if that's just 5 minutes before you then grab your phone and go into the reaction mode and, actively using your phone for whatever you need to do, if it's just 5 minutes before that, it will make a difference. And the real secret here is to have the intention to do it and then to follow through, and you are just going to feel so much better. You may start out with 5 minutes, but then the next week you might be like, hello, that was amazing. I'm going to do 10 minutes this week. And I say you go for it. You can work it into your evening wind down. For example, again, like I said earlier, leave your phone out of the bedroom if you can, right? Plug it into a different room, even in, like in your kitchen. Like, for example, my bedroom is upstairs. I leave it downstairs. I don't even take it to this level of my house. And trade the bedtime scrolling for knitting. You can do it either in your, literally in your bed, like as you're getting ready to lay down, or you can just do it instead of your scrolling or TV habit at night on your couch. You can use a cozy blanket, you can snuggle up under it, you can make a quick tea and make it a ritual that you love coming back to, right? It's like a whole vibe that you can create that to me is so much more appealing than scrolling Instagram and looking what other people are doing and thinking, oh my God, I wish I could do that. It's like, hello, let's flip the script. We can create this cozy scene for ourselves and not even worry about what other people are doing. Okay. Last tip is the pocket project. Keep a small project, like real tiny, real simple, nothing overcomplicated that you can grab and just knit a few stitches or rows and then throw back in your pocket and have it in your bag. Just have it in your purse. Make it small enough to where it's like one yarn ball, one little pair of needles, and it can fit in there. And then try this out and knit instead of scroll when you're waiting in line, when you're sitting in the pickup line, when you're taking your kids to some activities, whenever you normally would pull out your phone because you know you're waiting for 5 minutes, 10 minutes, when you're at the DMV or whatever other appointment, doctor's appointment. And if you notice when you're in a doctor's office and you're in the waiting room, you will notice that probably 99% of the people who are waiting with you are on their phone. There may be the occasional person who's reading a book, which I find lovely as well. But why don't you pull out your knitting and not be like 99% of those people? Be the person that is actually making and creating something and simultaneously giving your brain a break and a slow dopamine hit. It's going to be so amazing. So those little swaps can help your brain reset from this constant stimulation that you get from using your phone and frankly from everything else. I mean, we got news coming at us. We got, things from our kids' school coming at us. And then we've got questions from everybody. And can you do this? And do you have time for that? Like, it's not just the phone. The phone is usually the messenger, the carrier of all of those stimulants that are coming at us. But you're going to reset your brain from this constant income of stimulation to intentionally calming your brain. And again, I say this all the time, it is not about perfection. So if you don't do this one day, or if you grabbed your phone instead of your knitting, don't beat yourself up, right? It's not about doing it perfectly, but it is about being aware of what's actually going on in your brain and with your habits, and then taking intentional steps as many times as you can and feel better and reward yourself with just giving yourself a high five. Like, just celebrate and be like, you know what? Today, instead of grabbing my phone, 15 times, I only grabbed it 10 times. And the other 5 times, I actually grabbed my knitting and I knitted 5 rows. And that's 5 more rows than I did yesterday. And that is worth celebrating because it's the step in the right direction. So if you are ready to build a knitting habit that actually supports your mental health, we are all about that here at the Knitting Mamas. And I have 2 things for you that you can download that will support you in this. So the first one is a free guide called 3 Things You Need to Start Knitting. And you can grab that at theknittingmamas.com/start. Coolest thing about it, I recently added a glossary page into it, and it has like all the knitting lingo that you may be like, what? Which will help you so much when you're first getting started, understand it, or when you're first getting back into it, which was me 20 years ago or so. Well, no, 20 years ago I stopped, and then I got back into it about 5 years ago in 2020. And the glossary would have been such a big help because not only was I in a different country, so the language was like, well, everything is different, especially when it's like specific lingo for something like knitting, right? It's not just like, oh yeah, I know how to speak English, but I don't know the words that we use for knitting. I know everything in German, but not in English. So that would have been super helpful. So that's why I included it for those of you who are like completely thrown off by this language that knitting actually has. And if you are ready to dive deeper and truly learn how to knit from beginning to end, I have a beginner's guide called Become a Knitter in 5 Simple Steps, and it walks you through everything you need to know to feel confident and get yourself started. So that one you can grab at theknittingmamas.com/guide. Both of these tools are designed to help you make knitting your go-to self-care ritual, which is truly why I am doing this podcast, why I'm talking to you every week, because I want for you to have this tool that you can take everywhere and anywhere, that you can pull out wherever you are and give yourself a little break, a little rest, and create something beautiful in the process. So I want to thank you for hanging out with me today here on the podcast. I hope you got something out of this episode. If you did, please feel free to share it on your social media. You can tag me at @theknittingmamas_. I will shout you right back out. And I hope you are here next week for the next round of cozy encouragement on the Knit Your Stress Away podcast. Until then, have a wonderful week and knit away. Can't wait to see your projects. Thanks so much for hanging out with me on today's episode. I hope you're walking away with a bit more inspiration and a few ideas to make your self-care a priority. If today's chat gave you a little boost, I'd love it if you could leave a 5-star review on iTunes. This helps other moms discover the podcast and start finding more calm and creativity in their day as well. And don't forget to join us over in the Knitting Mamas community on Facebook by going to theknittingmamas.com/group. Thanks again, and remember, you deserve time for yourself to recharge and feel your best. Catch you next time on the Knit the Stress Away podcast.